This episode is brought to you by the Rudy Project. Thank you so much to Mike Buenting and the team at the Rudy Project for sponsoring today's episode. If you want to receive 35% off everything that is Rudy Project, from helmets to sunglasses to gear, please check out the show description notes and you will find a link where you can set up an ambassador account to get, that's right, 35% off everything. Also, we have a newsletter that is on the website, stupidquestions.show. If you sign up for that newsletter and give us a follow on Instagram, it's just the Stupid Questions Podcast. Anyway, I'll link it in the notes. If you follow us and sign up for the newsletter, you will be entered for a drawing that we will be doing for some Rudy Project gear. There are shirts, there are hats, there is water bottles, there are sunglasses, a number of different things. So if you want to be entered into that drawing, again, please go follow us on Instagram and sign up for the newsletter at stupidquestions.show. That is the website. Thank you so much. How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this next episode of the Stupid Questions Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking with Mike Buenting, who is the sports marketing coordinator for the Rudy Project. That is not all that Mike does, and we dive into that. So many different things. He has history in pro bass fishing, in the music industry. He has a great love for different types of wines. He's been the agent for a bunch of different artists and bands, has done live sound mixing and a number of different shows for high-profile people. Just really awesome to hear his story, who he is and what he's got going on, and even his daughter, who is a NCAA triathlete herself. So he's super proud of that, and it's neat to hear him talk about just a little bit of that story. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Mike. Yeah, man. So this is your first podcast appearance, I hear, huh?
Yeah, I feel so honored. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, so I've been... for the Stupid Questions Podcast, we've had on quite a few of professionals and a few that are not professionals in the sport but are just related to the endurance sports industry. So I was doing some hunting on LinkedIn and found you working with the Rudy Project, and anybody who's in endurance sport I think has heard of Rudy Project. So thank you so much for being on. We're going to jump into all of that. But the first thing I just kind of want to start today is I want to ask you, who is Mike?
Who is Mike? Oh, man.
Or
that
who
question,
isn't?
Who isn't Mike? I've done a lot. I mean, I'm 49 years old, and sometimes when I list off everything I'm involved with and do, I'm like, I should be 90 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, Mike, as I said, I'm a 49-year-old dude who lives, swim, bike, and run, loves to get out and activate. I'm a father to an amazing daughter who is a NCAA triathlete. So she's on scholarship for triathlon. She's been competing in triathlon since she was at the age of 8, and she is now 21. So her and I have been racing together all those years, which is quite amazing. I come from the music business background and still am an agent to a couple artists. So music, sport, and wine. Those are my passions.
Say those three again. I'm going to write them down. Wine, sport, and music, you said?
Sport, music, and wine. I love good wine.
Okay, sweet. So we're going to have plenty to talk about then.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. So
Okay.
I'm a Midwesterner. Now I live in a western suburb of Minneapolis out by Lake Minnetonka. So still in the Midwest in Minnesota. I'm ready to leave. That's why I travel a lot. I like to get out and experience new places, meet new people, and the Midwest is getting old.
Yeah. Have you lived there pretty much since you grew up?
Yeah, I'm between Iowa and Minnesota. Those have been my homes for 49 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a while. Where would you like to go?
So Rudy Project's offices in North America are based in San Clemente, which is an absolute amazing area. So Orange County is amazing, but it's also quite expensive. So my other place I love is Scottsdale, Arizona, which Scottsdale, Arizona is expensive too, but a little more reasonable than California. So those are my two places I frequent the most in my travels. Yeah.
So those are both in California. Yeah, I would imagine that taxes and everything else is just insane, a big move. So are you thinking about making this happen soon?
Possibly not soon. My wife's job kind of keeps us here a little bit. So it's a little tougher. So, but she doesn't care if I'm gone usually. I think after 23 years of marriage, being gone helps it sometimes.
Okay.
So, yeah,
are you just hard to live with?
If you ask her, yes, probably so.
Yeah. What kind of kid were you growing up? Were you very hyperactive, or were you always into sport, or were you into other things?
Yeah, I've always been athletic and into sport. So I grew up, of course, playing a lot more of the, I suppose, traditional sports, baseball and football and all that kind of
Sure.
stuff. I found my way into running in high school because I was a wrestler and I also played basketball. But I was so skinny to play football. I was like 98 pounds. And so basically, um, our basketball coach was the running coach and for cross country. And he's like, well, you're coming out for cross country to get in shape for basketball. I'm like, okay. And so I found this love of running in like, maybe it was ninth grade or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember being 14 years old and in summer practice, he took me out and had me run my first half marathon. So like
Oh,
me
wow.
and a bunch of kids, we ran our first half marathon at 14 and I just got this bug to run. And I loved it. And running is my background and my strength. So I was a run coach for many years and like
Sure.
ran a lot of marathons. And that's how triathlon kind of came into play is from my days of running.
That's awesome. So when you first got into running, was that encouraged by your family or discouraged, or was there any overlap?
They didn't care. My family's not athletic at all. None of them did sport like this. I mean, my
Sure.
dad loved to watch football and stuff like that, but I mean, they didn't understand this endurance sports world. So
Yeah.
it wasn't something that came from them. It was something I kind of found on my own and found it to be something that I just loved to do. Then I sort of drifted away from it and then kind of came back to it.
Okay. So what brought you back?
Um, so, as I got older, in high school, I was running, but then I also got into a band. So I was playing
Oh,
bass
sweet.
guitar and playing in rock bands. And this is where the whole music industry thing came into play. So then by the time we were 16, my friends and I in this band, we were loading up the car and driving to Chicago and Kansas City and all these cities to playing rock clubs and shows. And, I was a very energetic bass player at the time. I mean, this is late 80s, early 90s. So, people like Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers was like
Mm-hmm.
one of my influences. And I would say I jumped and danced around a lot like Flea and wore about as much clothes as Flea does on stage. And that was kind of my thing.
Is there pictures and videos that I can find somewhere on the internet of this
Oh,
stuff?
there probably is. I could probably find you stuff. Yeah.
Good.
This one club named me once like the best dancing bass player or something like that. So,
Nice.
so I have that kind of energy about me. And then when I left the band, I became on the music side, the business side of things. So I was kind of working in a record store part time, and I was starting to work with a local club in Des Moines, promoting concerts. So I mean, years ago, I was one of the first guys to like bring the band 311 into town, and I have the contract where I paid them like nothing,
Yeah.
way back then, and I started working a bunch of shows like that, and then through that, I started picking up some local bands, and I started booking their shows for them, and then that grew into starting my own company where I was a booking agent and booked tours for bands all over the country. So I worked for a lot of artists, and then through that, I also started working for Columbia Records, going around like finding bands to sign to the label. And then I also used to mix live sound. So then I would tour with bands once in a while. So I've mixed live sound for artists like Jewel or Night Ranger or Joan Jett. I remember I was doing a show and my band was opening for Joan Jett, and this is in Ames, Iowa. And Joan had finished her sound check, and then she heard me sound checking the opening band. And the tour manager grabbed me, brought me out to the bus. I met Joan, and Joan asked me if I'd mix her show that night. So I mixed Joan Jett's show that night. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So kind of, yeah, more, did all that for many years, and sort of that lifestyle's not the healthiest, you
Sure.
know?
Well, let's dive into that really quick. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not healthy in the ways like, I mean, you're just up late and
Mm-hmm.
you eat bad food, and especially if you're touring. Like I didn't tour a ton because when you're
Mm-hmm.
on the road and you're on a drive-in city to city, you don't like get a lot of time. I changed this later in life when I did my last tour right before COVID. But you just kind of like that lifestyle, right? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say even back then like I was a big partier. I mean, I can say this,
Sure.
never in my life have I touched a drug or smoked a thing or anything, right? I've always been clean that way. Stayed away from it because I watched growing up in the music industry, I watched it destroy people, right? And
Sure.
so I knew to stay away and stay out of that stuff and just, I wanted to live life. So that's kind of where that, and then after music, I became a professional bass fisherman. So that's another weird thing too.
Whoa.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Making a note. We're gonna have to talk about that.
yeah, yeah. So it just wasn't a healthy lifestyle, and neither is fishing, because if you're standing in a bass boat for 8 to 10 hours a day, you're eating junk food
Hmm.
in a boat while you're out fishing. Um,
I mean, you could make some
so
filet, like right there on, bring your grill and.
yeah. And so how I found my way back into endurance sports is, I was always staying active, running and playing basketball. So basketball was something I played a lot of, and I had a friend that played professional basketball in Europe, and he'd come home in summer. I'd train with him, and I used to run and pick up games with NBA players and
Mhm.
stuff like that all summer long here in Minnesota. And so I was always very active that way. But as a kid, I had my Schwinn, road bike with my down tube shifters, and I loved the Tour de France. So even as a kid in high school, like I was riding a road bike everywhere, like rocking
Sure.
it with the little hat flipped up. I mean, we didn't wear helmets back in the day because we were stupid.
Neither did the tour riders
Yeah, I
while they
mean,
were smoking their cigarettes.
exactly. So all of that stuff's always been in me. And then the day that like brought it back to me is, I also have a real estate license, and I helped this young couple move here from Colorado, and she was training for the Twin Cities Marathon at the time. And I'm like, hey, I'll go for a training run with you one day. And she's not a fast runner. She's like a 5-hour marathoner. And I remember she took me on a 10-mile or 12-mile training run that day and destroyed me. And I was like, that was like a wake up call. Like, I got to get my shit together. Like, I
Yeah.
got to get back in shape. And so like, that's when I transitioned back in. I was like, I'm going to do a marathon. So I signed up for a marathon the next year, and I said, I'm going to go run Twin Cities Marathon. And my first marathon was nothing pretty. It was like a 3:53. Like I
Yeah.
survived through the day, right?
Right.
But then I signed up and came back the next year, and I ran a 3:03 and qualified
Oh
for
yeah.
Boston. And then I went to run the Boston Marathon. That was the first time I broke 3 hours, was on the Boston Marathon
Good
course.
for
And then
you.
I went on to become a 2:39 marathoner and run Boston
Wow.
9 times, run New York, run Chicago, and become, like, if I couldn't run a 2:55, then like something miserably went wrong. Like
Yeah.
I would say 2:41 to 2:45 was my main, like I ran more marathons than I can count in that time zone.
Wow. Good for you. What was your age range at this point then?
I would have been in my 30s probably, I guess. This is like, well, yeah, 2005-ish.
Okay.
So probably is when I started getting the bug to this. And so so coming back into endurance running, the marathon, half marathon was kind of
Hmm.
like then what brought me into triathlon, because so she was getting me into running. Her fiance at the time, who was like my best friend, Dave, was a cyclist, and they had come from Colorado, and he had his fancy road bike. And so he helped get me like back into the mix of cycling. And at this time, like when I ran that first marathon, I'll take it back to what rock and roll and fishing can do to your body. At the time,
Hmm.
I was probably pushing 100 and I don't know, 85 to 90 pounds, and I was a size 34 waist. Now I'm about 149, 150 pounds, and I'm a 28 waist. So
How tall
like
are you?
5'11".
Okay. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
pretty lean.
yeah, and I'm probably, the last time I had a BMI, I was maybe 5-6% body fat, and my VO2 was like 72 or something like that. So like the point is, like I try to get across to people, is you can change at any time, right? Like
Hmm.
you walk around, and we were just in Augusta together, and you walk around and you see people, and people look unhealthy and they feel this and that. It's like,
Hmm.
you don't have to be that way. Like
Yeah.
I was there, I was unhealthy, and I one day woke up and said, I need to make this change.
Yeah.
And like did it, and then went all in and became super addicted. So I like to say I'm addicted to pain, I
Yeah.
guess.
In a good kind of pain. I mean, it takes stress to have adaptability and to grow in anything.
Yeah, I mean, I just love sport, and I
Yeah.
respect sport too much, and I have the gift to be pretty good at it for
Yeah.
and I don't want to waste that gift. I mean, Prefontaine's like one of my classic heroes, right? And all of his quotes I go back to all the time, and yeah, so So I feed off of a lot of pre-energy sometimes.
Yeah. What is that? What is the person's name? I don't know them, and I'm
You
embarrassed
don't
to
know
say.
Steve Prefontaine, one of the greatest distance runners of all time? Oh my God.
Steve Prefontaine.
You got to look up Steve Prefontaine. So you had
That's
Emma Pallant
interesting.
Brown on here, and she talked
Yeah.
about one of her favorite movies, Without Limits. That movie, Without Limits, is about Prefontaine.
Oh, nice. I gotta
Yeah,
do some
you
more
got to watch the
research.
movie. There's two movies out about Pre. I mean, he's the guy that basically like started Nike back, and I mean, basically, well, he didn't. The guy, I forgot the coach, the guy at the time that designed the shoes, the Nike shoes, and the whole swoosh and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, so that he put Oregon running on the map and was like the greatest distance runner basically of all time. But if you look up Steve Prefontaine and all of his crazy quotes, he died at a very young age, which is sad.
Oh,
And
I was gonna say, is he still alive?
yeah. So that's why. But he's like one of my heroes that I look up to. The way he just competed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Super fascinating. So I want to pause on that and the timeline progression for a little bit and go back because the music stuff is super intriguing to me. But let's go to college. Did you go to college?
I did not.
You didn't.
Skipped school because I was living the rock and roll dream.
Yeah, good for you, man. No, I think I'm so. Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur? You seem that type of sorts.
100%
Yeah,
entrepreneur. I have started my own business and company since I was 18 years old and
yeah,
pretty much have always lived and worked that way my entire life.
yeah. So I love that. But in the music side of things, when you were like growing up, I mean, everybody starts listening to music, I guess, in their teens, and then you were growing up and I guess listening to some of the same music I was listening to. I'm thinking of like Blink 182 days, and that's like was my kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when did you start like consuming this and thinking like, oh, maybe I could like poke my head into this industry to some degree?
So that was brought on by, so when I played in a band, I did the business side of things for our band. And so the band was like, we were high school kids and with my best friend Doug, and he was a guitar player, and
Mm-hmm.
he got me, and then we got his cousin Tommy to play drums, and we got our other good friend Mike to sing, and we created this basically in the basement band, right? And then we started to get good, and Doug started to write really good songs, and it kind of progressed. And so we started playing these shows, and how that transpired is like there was a club in Cedar Falls, Iowa we used to play all the time called Stebbs, and the owner of that club, when I called him up and said, hey, I'm going to quit the band and, blah, blah, he said, you're really good at the business side of things. Like you have this knack of the way you do things and handle things. And so he really encouraged me and kind of brought me in. And so I had a lot of great mentors like that throughout my younger years of like coming up through music, and who just saw something in me and believed in me to like encourage me and give me these shots to go do my thing. So that's kind of where that came from. And so I just kind of, I guess like, and this is good into like sport. I'm not afraid to fail. Like I just put myself out there and I chase everything.
Sure.
What's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's going to say no. Like you just got to
Yeah.
go for it. So many
Yeah.
people live in fear, and I live in no fear. Like,
Yeah.
you know how many times I've been told no, but eventually you get the yes,
Yeah.
or it's like racing, right? Like you throw yourself out there, like in Augusta this weekend, and I just went for it. And I ran that first 4 miles way too fast, and I completely overheated, and I paid for it. And the rest of the run became a complete death march.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure. Where did that mentality and just like mindset come from, you think? Was that something that was fostered in you from your parents or friends or?
I don't think it comes from my parents at all. I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, I don't
Sure.
know. I mean, the tough thing, my dad died. That was a big turning point for me too. I mean, he died in 2008 and he was only 63 years old. So like, and he was pretty sick for a lot of those kind of years with diabetes and having a brain stroke and all these things that happened to him. So, I mean, we had a lot of great memories together, and he's great, but I can't like, he wasn't like that. He was pretty laid back and chill, and
Yeah.
my mom's not athletic at all. So I really don't know where it comes from other than I'm just wired in a pretty high energy kind of way,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a super impactful thing. So 2008, 16 years ago. So you're still relatively young. I lost my father actually in 2008 as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Right.
it definitely makes a dent on how you look at life for sure. How old were you?
I don't know. Let's see. I'm 49. It's 2023.
Somebody
and
do the math. Last time I tried to do
yeah,
math on
my
live,
math
it's
is
like bad.
not like I'm really good at a lot of things, but math sometimes, like when I was a run coach and I would be given splits, sometimes people would tease me because I'd be like,
Yeah.
just run that, go, but
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah, like 20s, 30s. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So when you race now, do you think of like, oh, I wish my dad was here to see this kind of a thing?
It happens sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
now, I mean, he got to see my early days of marathoning and triathlon racing before he passed. Which was cool. I mean, what I miss is that he doesn't get to see his granddaughter because like
that's huge.
my daughter was everything to him. It's his only grandkid, and so the fact that he doesn't she's like an exceptional person and athlete. Like I'm an insanely like proud father kind of guy. So like that piece of it's kind of tough.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Deep stuff. So then you move on from music, you start to get into endurance sport. Or no, excuse me, you get into professional bass fishing. Tell me where did that come in? Like, did you grow up fishing?
I did grow up fishing. Okay. So, I mean, when you grow up in Iowa, and I live in a small suburban town of Des Moines, I mean, it's pretty much play sports and fish, play music, whatever, right? So yeah, I used to fish a lot as a kid. I was really into fishing. And in fact, like my summer camp, like was called Camp Fish. I literally came up to northern Minnesota with some professional fishermen, and we fished for a week and learned about fishing and studied it.
Wow.
So yeah, and I mean, living in Minnesota, all the lakes, I kind of got into being a guide. So I guided on Lake Minnetonka, which is the biggest lake here just outside of the Twin Cities, just 20 minutes outside of downtown. It's, full of multi-million-dollar homes all around it, but it's tremendous fishing. And so I guided on a lake, and I used to, so I was a guide and worked with a lot of professional athletes. So from Minnesota Viking players to Minnesota Twin players to Minnesota Wild players, like I took those guys all fishing all the time and fished in tournaments with them. Like Brad Radke was a former pitcher of the Minnesota Twins. He's thrown no hitters. He's actually a good fisherman. He and I fished a tournament together, took second place in this celebrity pro-am thing. So,
nice.
I just got very involved in a lot of that type of stuff over the years. Yeah. And it's interesting because it all like relates to each other, whether it's music, fishing, or triathlon, running, cycling, whatever, that it all kind of intertwines in how you handle. I think we talked about this in Augusta, right? Like dealing with a young up and coming musician is not much different than dealing with a young up and coming triathlete, right? They all sort of have their ways of thinking and this and that. Yeah.
So I want to ask, when it comes to fishing, I've tried fishing. And I have just about enough patience to cast it and wait 10 seconds and be like, oh, guess no fish today, which is obviously to my detriment. You seem like a pretty active guy. Did this help with your patience and learning like how to focus on a certain thing, or?
Maybe a little. So the way I fished is I'm sort of like that too, but I was sponsored by Ranger Bass Boat. So I had a boat that went 70 miles an hour. And
Good
so
grief.
like there was nothing like just early morning if that lake was flat calm and you just let that boat rip across the water, right?
That'd be so fun.
Then in bass fishing, it's a lot of active stuff. So like search baits, you're constantly moving around, looking for active fish. And then once you kind of maybe, it depended on the time of year and the pattern, you would find an area and then you would maybe focus a little slower there. But I would say today, like I would enjoy going fishing, but I sort of don't miss it that much, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if my patience are there. Like like I always say, I traded away a fiberglass boat for carbon fiber bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one more question about the fishing thing. When you are looking for an active area, quote unquote, is that, oh, there's fish jumping out of the water over there because they're trying to eat? Or like, what does that even mean? Like, you have a fish finder and you're getting tons of...
That could be a whole long conversation, but there's baits like, say, a spinner bait or a crankbait or something you throw and you retrieve in, and and they're called like search baits. And so you have your trolling motor down and you're cruising a shoreline. So I would study time of year, water temps, lake maps, what's the structure of the lake, all these different things to think of the patterns of where fish will be chasing bait fish. And then you go into those areas and you chase them and you try to catch the active fish on those baits. And then you slow down and fish with maybe something slower in the area, which a lot of times the bigger fish would be in there and you would pitch a jig or a worm in there. And this is all artificial baits. I was not a live bait fisherman, but yeah.
My level of education is so poor. I'm struggling to ask more questions. Why would you only go?
We don't need to talk about fishing. your demographic on this podcast likes endurance athletes, so we can skip fishing.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. So then you're getting into sport more. When did you kind of transition? Because it sounds like a lot of your stuff has been kind of self-made and how you're making money to survive. How did you transition and like start getting into the world of triathlon and then obviously with Rudy?
So when I got into, like I said, running and marathon was my first passion and love. And so I would run 3 or 4 marathons a year. And then I used triathlon as my means to cross train in the summer between, because mostly I would do spring and fall marathons. And then in the summer, I'd race more sprint Olympic triathlons to stay active, to cross train, and because of my love of cycling. Now, my love of swimming came much later, like when I first started getting into triathlon, like I literally went to the pool and I sucked. Like I couldn't swim. I mean, I can swim.
We've all been there, yeah.
But my swim was bad. And then I got it good enough. And basically I would swim enough every week just to get through the distances of my races. And then it would be get to the bike and the run, which is what I'm really good at, and let's go. And then I could, and with a craptastic swim, I could still run and bike fast enough to get onto podiums or win races and things like that. So then like duathlon, like I was the 2016 national champion of duathlon, and I've actually podiumed at the 2013 world championships for duathlon. So run bike run was definitely something. And then so in that, then I started working at Lifetime Fitness. So I was a spins instructor, basically a cycle instructor. So I taught cycle classes, and then I coached runners. And then I started, because I'm at Lifetime Corporate here, so I'm like at the corporate office. So I started building a lot of the programs. So then from there, I went into leading our cycle club and our run club, and then I sort of morphed them and became a triathlon thing. But I was really known for coaching runners for a long time. So I started my coaching business out of Lifetime Fitness, and then I eventually left Lifetime Fitness, started my own coaching business called Gotta Have Heart Training, and I had a big group, and it was a lot of group training, so most of my athletes were local, and we'd get together 3 times a week, and there'd be 30 of us or whatever going out for group runs or going to the track to do speed work, but it was all based around, like, I'd say my reputation became people wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon, I would help them qualify for it, and then I would take a group to Boston, and I would get us a block of hotels, get us a bus to the start line, organize dinners, this whole thing. And so did that 9 times in a row. And then I bowed out of Boston. I was qualified, but I skipped the year Des won. And then that was a year in the rain. So I didn't, I watched it from my Wahoo kicker and was kind of like, yeah, I'm not sad to be there in that crappy weather. So yeah. And then triathlon just became more and more through there. So like 2012 was the year I did my first Ironman. So I know like you just did Wisconsin. And so my first Ironman was in 2012. I did Ironman Arizona. And so I signed up to do that. And that was also the year that I ran my PR in the marathon. I had run the Chicago Marathon in October, ran a 2:39, came back in November to go to Ironman Arizona in my very first Ironman, and went 10:05 that day. I should have been under 10 hours, but I flat tired on the bike. So I've had bad luck racing in Arizona with flat tires. So
bad roads out there.
12 minutes on the side of the road because I needed a new tire. My tire was not salvageable, so I had to wait for the SAG guy to come by, swap my tire, get me going again. And then I've only done 2 fulls, and then my next full was Wisconsin 2014. 2014 was a disaster. I had this great swim and this great bike. You just did that course, the bike course hard. I think I biked it in 5:20 that day. So I was riding well. I came off the bike and I was like hauling a sub 7 pace for 5 kilometers or so. And then the wheels came off. I went into this dizzy state and I literally crawled aid station to aid station eating my guts out. I could not keep any food in. And I remember laying in a medical tent with my friends, my wife, my daughter there, and I'm like just puking my guts out. I'm miserable. They're like, the medics are like, we should pull this guy from the race. And my wife looks at her watch. She looks at me. She's like, you got 7 miles to go or something like that. You got this much time. Get your ass up and get to the finish line.
Nice.
Like, here we go. And this dizzy state. All right. So I get to the finish line. I mean, with a 7-hour walk, puke, lay on my
Dude, that's so
thing for
miserable.
like 15 minutes at a time, kind of marathon. I still was 13 hours and 20 minutes or whatever, but I went into medical tent and had to get two IVs, and they had weighed you before the race, and then they weighed me at med, and I'd lost 13 pounds in the race.
Yeah, so you could have taken like 4 or 5 bags.
Yeah, I was a mess. So
Yeah.
that was my last full. And then
Did you
at
swear
that time,
then
my
never
daughter
again?
was getting old enough to race, so my focus really became her,
Yeah.
right? So my focus in sport became training and racing with her at sprints and Olympics, going to USAT nationals, USAT world champs and stuff. And so when she was 15, she was one of the youngest on the start line. So 2018 Gold Coast, Australia, it was awesome. That's probably one of my shining moments because she qualified for Team USA. I qualified for Team USA. We got to go down to Australia and race together, Team USA.
That's
She
so
was
cool.
a 15-year-old and in the sprint race, and I was a 30 something or whatever in the Olympic race, and we did a ton of media down there, so there's a lot of great media clips. Like still today, if you go to triathlon.org and look for us, you'll find a video they shot of us at Currumbin Wildlife holding koalas and stuff. So
That's so neat.
yeah.
Makes you super proud father. I can only imagine that must be such a cool journey to be able to have that memory then now forever.
Yeah, like the Parade of Nations, getting to walk through it with your daughter, and you're both wearing Team USA kits, and you're with all these athletes. It was just like, it was super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a good moment. So
that's really neat. So when
yeah.
did you get into working with Rudy then?
So let's see here. I would say so. I started working with a compression boot type company
Okay.
before Rudy, and I'm not with that company anymore. But that was probably right around the pandemic time,
Okay.
like 2020. And also during the pandemic, because when the pandemic came, we were all stuck at home. I Bike shops were necessary; they could be open. So my local bike shop, who supported me for years, I said, "Hey, I got nothing to do. I'm just sitting at home. Like I'm gonna help you guys out." So I found this love of like hanging out, being in the bike shop space,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
Something I could do during the pandemic. So I was kind of doing those things. So I was kind of already moving my way into the space, and I was, like with that other company I used to work for, kind of creating all the relationships with like Challenge Miami, which then became Clash, like those types of events, and being
Mm-hmm.
at those races, and like Hincapi Gran Fondos, all these different things, and working with our pro athletes. Like I was going and dealing with our pro athletes and signing them to our deals and so forth. And so then I had always been a Rudy Project athlete and coach and known the people there and used the products for many, many, many years. So then it's been like I would say I've been working for Rudy Project full time like a year and a half now. And so that kind of came about just like there was a person that was kind of doing the role I was doing, and she left. And so then I started talking to the person that I know, Chris, for many years and has worked with me. And he's like, "Do you want this role?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I would love it. I love
Yeah.
the products. Like, love the company." So that's where things kind of got there. And so Chris brought me into the sports marketing department there at Rudy Project. And so, yeah, I've just been having a blast getting involved in there. And then this summer, also in July, so I dabble in lots of things. So I also have been helping out a wetsuit company. So Synergy Wetsuits. I've been
Yeah. Good for
helping
you.
them out. There'll be some big announcements coming of some deals I've been putting together. So
Like,
that
you mean
just kind of keeps
contracts
up
with
in
professionals, or what do you mean?
contracts with that and contracts with other things, and yeah, things like that that'll be coming out. Can't say yet, but anyways, yeah. So that started coming about in July. So I do that, and then yeah, I'm a USA Triathlon Foundation ambassador. So I've always been very involved in the like the foundation, and like really found a love for the para world. So like this summer, even the last 2 summers, there's a professional para athlete. Her name's Emmy Perry, and she is a wheelchair athlete, and I've been her handler. So I still love my bib now from her professional World Cup race this summer in Long Beach, and my handler bib, and
Oh, cool.
of getting to be. And she the year before she won the race, so it was national championships when I was her handler for the first time, and so. Yeah, I'm really trying to get more involved into that, and like talking to some of the vision impaired athletes to like want to be in a guide. Like I
Yeah.
would love to dive more into guiding and get involved. Like they are if anybody out there listening to this has never been to a para triathlon race or been around that community, like Dare to Try, Paraguide over in Charlotte, North Carolina, like you just got to do it. Like they are the most amazing, inspiring athletes, people in the world, right? Like they have these things that have happened to them, extreme hardships, and they're still the most upbeat, happy person, where most people would be like, you lost a limb or whatever, you're
super depressed.
you just be down, or they just like turn it around into this total positive, and they're just so happy and so grateful.
Wow.
And so it helps change my mindset a lot too in this space. Like I'm an able-bodied athlete, and on days when I want to cry and whine about how much tired I am or I hurt or doing something, I just have to like smack myself in the face and be like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're able-bodied, you're able to do this. Like,
yeah, it gives you another level of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm very grateful to be healthy and doing this day in and day out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with that then? It sounds like just for the past year or so with the Paralympic stuff?
Yeah, that's all still new. So like I met the Dare to Try people, which is a really great organization out of Chicagoland area a couple years ago, and I attended not this summer, but the summer before a camp they did, and got to work with them there. And then the last 2 summers in Long Beach, I've been Emmy's handler. And so Emmy and I talk all the time, and I'm always like, hey, if you need a handler at an event, just call me. I'll happily travel with you and, support you.
Yeah. What does that actually mean? Like, are you like almost representing them in a lot of the formal communication, or does that mean like you go to the event, you're helping them physically go from station to station, you're racing with them?
Exactly. So you have to be, so you're going to the event, you're actually like part of the race. You're not like a guide and vision impaired athlete that has a guide tethered to you that has to like, you know what I mean, drive things. Yeah. But I mean, it's stressful for me because I like wheel her down in her day chair to the swim start, get her to the swim start, and then I have to be there at swim exit. So then they bring her out of the water, up, put her in her wheelchair, and I have it locked and ready to go. And I'm like, hey, here. And I strip her wetsuit pants off, and then she wheels herself to transition. Then I have to flip her from her day chair into her hand cycle, which is the bike, let her go out on the bike, and then I wait there. And then when she comes back, I have to then get her from the hand cycle into her day chair, the day chair into the running chair, and off she goes. So it's kind of like boom, 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 helping her move.
So it's self-propelled, her chair still.
It's a hand cycle. Yeah, she's using her arms. It has gears. She has SRAM axis shifting on there and the whole thing. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super expensive. And then I drag around all of these things for her down to the race start. So I've got, one bike in one hand, one in the other, and she's wheeling her chair, and we're going. It's a process. It's a lot of work, and I stress because her race and her quick transitions totally rely on me not screwing up. So
yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. So it's super fun.
Yeah, that's super neat, man. So with Rudy, what is your official title? So we know that. And then what do you do on a day-to-day for Rudy?
So for Rudy Project, I'm sports marketing coordinator, I guess. So I work in sports marketing. So my role is I deal with a lot of like teams and coaches and athletes and, people we partner with. So like down in Augusta last weekend, the Augusta Triathlon Club or whatever, right? Like they're a team that I work with and I know. And so like I communicate with them and educate them on our products when we're releasing a new product. We give them a special discount on our products via that. And I just kind of am there to like support. So I'm there. So my day-to-day role is so much fun because I get to talk to athletes. Like I'm talking to coaches or athletes, just, a leader of a club that's starting a club or an event or a pro athlete or whatever. And just like, talking about sport, learning about sport, like all kinds of, really interesting, inspiring things. So everything I do is really, it's kind of, I guess, marketing, sales related. It's educating people on new products we have coming out, educating people on products we have, stuff like this. I'm wearing a pair of photochromic lenses right now.
I was going to ask about those. Was that on purpose? So marketing?
So the Spin Shield is an extremely popular pair of sunglasses that Rudy Project sells, right? And that's what these are. That's the frame, the Spin Shield. And then the lenses are photochromic, which is a light intensity adjusting. So Rudy Project makes, I would say, the best lenses out there. These Impact X photochromic lenses, people need to like research and learn about. They're unbreakable. I mean, these, you can't pull the lenses out because the Spin Shield doesn't allow you to swap lenses, but on different frames, like the new Keleon or a Cutline or something, you can change lenses. I could take a lens out, squeeze it in my hand, and it will not break. I mean, I get messages from athletes all the time that are like, hey, Mike, got in a crash or whatever, need to do crash replacement on my helmet. But hey, guess what? My sunglasses are still good. Like, they didn't break, nothing happened. So, yeah, so I do a lot of that, like a lot of talking with our marketing agency to be talking about like, hey, what kind of email or social media communications do we want to get out, and what kind of messaging. I attend conferences like USA Triathlon Partners Summits, or I'm going to be going to a People for Bikes conference soon, where you just like an industry kind of networking thing, and then I'll stick around and hang out at the Big Sugar Gravel Race, which we're a sponsor of.
Yes.
So then I go to events and just am there to support our athletes and cheer for them and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's super neat. So would you consider yourself a salesman?
Oh, I mean, my whole life, everything I've done is, I guess, sort of salesy,
Yeah.
Related. I mean, so I don't want to call myself a salesman.
I know, that's why it's a little tongue in cheek asking that question.
But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all doing, no matter what we
Sure.
are, even
Yeah.
as a pro athlete or whatever, right? You got to
Yeah.
go win a race, but you also have to be a salesman to sell yourself, sell your sponsors' products, whatever, right?
Yeah. That's
So,
part of the economy. No, it's totally needed. I think
yeah.
you're a great one. I was like, oh man, maybe I should get some Kilian, some
Helions are the jam, man. They are the brand new glasses that just came out from Rudy Project, and I mean, I've owned and I own a lot of sunglasses. I mean, I'm kind of a fashion junkie too, in a way. Like I love shoes and stylish designer shirts, and I'm the guy that walks into boutique, stuff, and I don't look at price tags, and I walk out and go, shit, I just spent $300 on a shirt. Like, wow, okay,
yeah,
whatever.
ouch.
But I look so cool, and when I go out, I'm
Yeah.
rocking it. So yeah, so that's me. And yeah, the key leons are like, and I actually came up with our new tagline that we're using, where performance meets style. So
Oh, nice.
I made that because
Athleisure.
glasses have the look of the spin shield like I'm wearing, but they have the performance of glasses like the Defender and the Cutline and some of our other glasses with the power venting and the adjustable nose pads and the temple tips and all that other kind of stuff. So I was saying that one day, and it finally like stuck, and they're using it in our marketing because it's so true. It's like, they're stylish and they look cool, but they have all the performance features that you want in a pair of glasses.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how many people are on the official Rudy team, like as a business?
You mean employees?
Yeah.
So I'm technically the North America. There might only be 15 of us. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I mean, since I work remote, I don't, I was just in the offices a few weeks ago, but there could be 15, 16 of us of the North America branch, but then Rudy Project's technically an Italian company that's still family owned and was started in 1985.
In Italy?
His sons run the company, Simone and Cristiano, and then we got all the staff there. And then we have, distributors like us, like North America branch all over the world, from Australia to Chile to wherever. And I was just in Italy in May for we have these big meetings every year where Rudy Project launches new products and brings us all together. And so it was super fun for me to get to make friends and hang out with all of the people that work for Rudy Project in South Africa to Australia to Chile to wherever, and all get together and see what the new products are coming out in the upcoming year. Yeah.
That's really neat. So how does one get sponsored by Rudy?
So there's different level of how people interpret sponsorship.
So not just discounts, like Rudy is sending me all their new stuff, and
so you gotta have to be, I mean, we have so much budget per year, right? And you're gonna look at things, and whether you're a top tier professional, a C-level professional, or you're just an age grouper guy, right? There's lots of different criteria that goes into that. So on our website, we get there's a link and people can go fill out to be an ambassador, it says basically. And that's usually kind of where we start people. And that's a lot of what I do is I review these applications that come in. I then call these athletes or whatever coaches and interview them, talk to them, kind of get to know them and see one, do I like them? Will they be fun to work with, be a cool fit? And two, do they seem like they're passionate about our product, or they're just fishing for something, right? There's a lot of people in this world that are just fishing for something and not really going to
Give back.
do anything for it and give back.
Sure.
And then, so in any company, whether it's Rudy Project, Synergy, whatever, I mean, I first want to know that like the person loves our product first, right? Like it's how I take jobs, right? Like I've just went through this summer. I was being offered jobs from a lot of companies in the triathlon space, and there was a product I was testing over and over, and I just couldn't fall in love with the product. So it was a very, very cool job. It was it was a lot more money than I make now, even, and everything else. But I just said, I can't commit to this right now because I don't believe in it. And that's where it's so easy for me to come into a company like Rudy Projects or Synergy or something, is like they're products that I pay full retail for and would use always, right? It's something I believe in and love.
Yeah, you got to like it, or you can't even
yeah. And so like, it's so easy for me to come in and work and be super passionate and energetic working there and doing it because it's something that I believe in and love. And I think that that's how people have to go about life. It's the same how I was in music, all my years coming up dealing with artists. I made some mistakes for sure, in passing on artists, but like, I mean, there was a band called Train. Lots of people probably know them, a huge popular band.
You passed them up.
Greg Latimer at Aware Records had just signed them. They were a young band. He's like, Mike, I want you to work with this band. And I kept listening to music over and over. And I was like, I don't like it. I can't. So I passed. I said, no. And then a couple years later, they're huge. So whatever, it happens. And
such is Mike's life.
Yeah, it's even like the band Slipknot is very good friends of mine. I grew up I was roommates with those guys. I used to play in bands with those guys. But when they first came up, they had a different singer before Corey Taylor. And that singer was terrible. And I was like, so I'd help them. And they'd always be like, dude, we want you to like represent us and do stuff. And I'm like, no. And then I passed, and then they get Corey, and then now I love the band, and Corey's amazing, and they're blowing up, and I'm like, oh, I missed the boat, but they're still my friends, and I still know those dudes, and I miss Paul, the old bass player who passed away, but so it's the same thing in this space, right? Like I'm very cautious, of what I do, and that would be what I would say to an athlete, right?
Yeah.
If they're someone looking to be sponsored, like don't just go chasing something. I think you got to look at companies that, one, like you believe in their core values and their mission and everything. You got to believe in their products and want to use their products. And then, where was my third point? I just lost my brain for a second.
I mean, those are really good too. Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to be like in alignment with it, right? You got to be
sure.
thinking that way, not just like who's going to pay me, right? Yeah. Get it. It's your living, but you got to, a lesson I learned years ago in the music industry from one of my mentors is you got to think long-term, not short-term. So I'm a very loyal guy, and that's something I learned way back in the day in music. I mean, two of my biggest mentors in life come out of the music industry, one being this guy named Frank Riley, who's got the biggest agency in the world, High Road Touring, that does artists like Wilco and Bob Mould and so on and so forth. And then my friend Steve McClellan, who didn't own, but he started and booked the legendary club First Avenue, where I was a promoter for a long time. Prince shot the movie Purple Rain there. Major tour artists come through all there all the time. Yeah. And they really taught me a lot about staying loyal and true to things and thinking long-term, not short-term, because in the music industry, I really saw it a lot, where a lot of agents, a lot of managers, a lot of artists, everybody just took the short, quick buck.
Yeah, it's
right?
a quick capital gain. You're looking
and you can't think that way. And we're in a tricky phase of the triathlon industry right now. Like companies like Rudy Project are going to be around forever. We have been around for a long time, and we're going to be there. We might not always be able to compete with this new up-and-coming VC-funded company, for something that might be given this 1 year flash in the pan, big cash deal, right? But, we can do it for long-term. So it's just things athletes need to think about that when they're looking at products. Think about what product helps me perform better, because obviously they want performance. So they need, shoes is a big one. I think shoes is tricky, I love the test shoes, but I'm super picky about shoes. And so it's hard. If one company came to me and I was a young pro and offered me all this money, you'd be enticed to want to jump into that pair of shoes. But if you don't perform well in them and you perform better in this other pair of shoes, would you take that trade-off of performing less in a pair of shoes you don't love versus performing really well in a pair of shoes you do love? Those are just questions I think athletes need to think as they.
So is now a good time to announce that Rudy's going to be announcing a shoe?
No. No, Rudy Project's not making shoes.
I
No,
tried.
no, we're not making shoes. But I love to talk about shoes because I'm a running geek. As much as I love triathlon, like a total
Sure.
triathlon nerd, I'm also a track and field nerd, and I just like coming off of the world champs in Budapest and then the Diamond League final at the Prefontaine and watching what Jakob Ingebrigtsen's doing and all these guys, Yard Nagoose, like I'm a total geek of that stuff too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
super neat.
yeah.
So one area we did not touch on yet is the wine. So how are you involved in wine? Or is this like I smell it, taste it, I do the notes thing and I'm a snob about it, or are you working in the industry too?
I don't work in the wine industry. I would
Okay.
love to learn more about working in the industry,
Yeah.
but I just love wine. And one of my favorite things to do. I love to travel, as I said, and that's what I love working in the sport industry and traveling to races. But I love to sometimes like think about and find events and races. And my wife loves wine too.
Hmm.
So when we travel, if we're in a region that has wineries or something like that, we love to tour them and learn about them. And I would say my palate has changed over time as you start to learn more about wines and you start to learn what wines go with what food and all this. Like you really like start to go, oh, that like bottle of wine I used to go pick up is really not so good anymore.
Yeah.
Like you change. So I don't work in the industry. I couldn't even say I'm an expert in it. It's just
Sure.
like I appreciate sitting around with somebody who is an expert and learning about it. Like when we were in Italy at Rudy Project meetings in May, that region's the Veneto region. It's Prosecco. So we took a tour out to what's called the DOCG region of Prosecco, which is very small, very boutique vineyards that can produce no more than 20,000 bottles a year. They're all like up in the hills, so everything they do is by hand, no machinery. It's just really
Artisan.
cool. And yeah, and it is so if you're ever shopping for Prosecco, there'll be the DOC and the DOCG. DOCG means it's the really good stuff that comes out of that region. The DOC means it's the more mass-produced stuff. And
Interesting.
so like learning about that and tasting the differences of a dry, brut Prosecco to something that's a little more fruity and all that. It's super fun. And so, yeah, it's something we like to do. And there's a place in Arizona. So back to music, the singer of the band Tool, if you know the band Tool, Maynard,
Okay.
he has a winery that's based out of Jerome, but he also has a tasting room in Scottsdale. And his wine is called Merkin Vineyards. It is some of the best wine around. And so why I love Scottsdale is they also make farm to table food. Like the chef's amazing, the food's amazing. He grows it all out on his farm. And so anytime we're in Scottsdale, we like literally eat every dinner there, and we know the bartender super well. We walk in, Luis, hey, how's it going? And he just like hooks us up all night long, and it's amazing experience. And you sample and try all the different wines that Maynard's working on, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, super interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
Are you having any future trips planned to Italy so far?
I don't. I wish soon.
Well, when you do, let me know.
Uh, I tell you, anybody out there, like Italy is like absolutely stunning, amazing, gorgeous. The food's so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super cool. So I'm curious with all the different things you've done. We have named off obviously the wine stuff, music business, working with an agent, being in bands yourself, sport, bass fisherman. I'm sure there's things we aren't touching on, but I'm curious if for me, just the way that I have identified myself over the years from starting different businesses in the very beginning before I knew anything. It was really hard to kind of move my identity from one thing to the next without feeling like I have to like cut off a part of myself. So I'm curious, did you ever experience something like that? Have you ever struggled with Mike's identity in moving from music to endurance sport and, the pro bass fishing, all the different things you've done?
Um, I mean, sort of, but I sort of kind of keep a toe in all the ponds a little bit still because I do have a hard time of sort of letting go. I mean,
Yeah.
I retired, I say, from music once, and then I got drugged back in, and then things were really going strong and then COVID happened,
Yeah.
and then
Tough.
shifted gears, and then I got this opportunity to work in endurance sports, which was my passion and my love. And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I also have a real estate license and was a very top selling real estate agent for years. I still help out friends and family with real estate sales, but I don't actively pursue it like I did. So
Yeah.
I made a lot of money in real estate. I could make a lot of money in real estate if I hustled in it. but it's not what I love to do. So what I
Yeah.
love to do is work in athletes. So, but yeah, like I mean, it's weird. Like right now, like I used to go to music shows a lot, and I could roll around this town, and I knew everybody in a club, and I could walk into a club. I don't pay for shows. I just walk right in. People know me. And now I don't go out anymore. After the pandemic, I like totally changed. I became this total like lame, boring person where I just
A
watch.
hermit.
I just pretty much sit at home and watch YouTube videos that triathletes put out or cyclists or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night because I want to get up the next morning and train.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of shifted more in that lifestyle. I still go out to like more like jazz shows or something once in a while.
Sure.
So I feel like sometimes I'm like missing that piece of my life a little bit, because like, but I'm so into the endurance sport world, so I'm
Yeah.
I'm funneled there. But like all my friendships in the music industry sort of like aren't,
You have to
like they
rekindle and
used
work
to
on them.
be,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to do it all. And which is why I love to travel because I'm much more of I love people and I'm a people person.
Hmm.
I love being out interacting with people. And when I'm
Yeah.
at home, I'm bored.
Yeah.
But it's sort
I
of
can
like,
relate.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you think you're going to end up finding yourself back in the music industry? I mean, I guess you're still working with some artists, you said. You're
I work
still.
with a couple artists still that don't play a lot. They're legacy artists, been around for a long time. So when they do play, it's a big deal. And so like,
May I ask who they are?
So they're Minneapolis-based artists. One is the Suburbs that have been
Sure.
around for 40 some years. They had a huge hit song in the 80s called Love is a Law, which became the big theme when, same-sex marriage became a, thing back in and whatever.
Hmm.
So the Suburbs are a legendary band I've worked with for a long time. There's another artist, I love her to pieces, Tina Shaleski. She had a band that was extremely popular called Tina and the B-Sides, signed a big record deal back in the day. She toured with Double Trouble and a blues band for a while. And then now, like, it's fun with her because she plays lots of different ways. She does a jazz show. She does an acoustic solo show. She does a rock show. She does lots of different things.
Cool.
And then the other artist is Matt Wilson, who is from the legendary band Trip Shakespeare, and his brother Dan is the famous songwriter who wrote like Adele albums and things like that. Was from the band Semisonic, all that. So, I still kind of help out those, but I would say that is a part of my life that's getting ready to potentially phase out
Sure.
as I get super busy in everything else I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think, I guess maybe not do you think, but do you miss playing and producing? Like, did you write when you were doing that? Or like when you were a part of a band or?
I wrote some. I would say my bass playing skills were average. I was an entertainer. But I've always been a creative thinker. And that's what I love about I'm a very creative person and I feed off of creativity, whether it's art or whatever. And that's what I try to bring into my job at Rudy Project and stuff. I try to sit around with people and think outside the box sometimes, right? Like take what I love about swim, bike, run, and let's think of how to make things creative. And let's think about how to take things I would have done in a music industry or think from the music industry and do that. Probably what I miss more sometimes would be mixing live sound. So I love to sit behind a soundboard and have a band on stage and like twist the knobs and dial in EQ and mix and do all that kind of stuff. And like studio work. Some of that is, which listening and being on your podcast, doing things like a podcast or a YouTube channel, certainly tweaks my mind, especially like what Eric and Nick are doing at TTL. Like those guys have gone next level with their production and it's so artistic and so cool. And like, yeah, so I geek out on all of that stuff. And like, I go for runs and rides. I listen to these podcasts. I've been listening to lots of your podcasts this week out on my runs and rides. I've really enjoyed the two with Emma Pallet Brown and her husband and
Jared, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, my buddy Matt Sharp, who's one of the most gems in this sport.
Oh, he's such a nice guy.
Oh,
I feel unworthy of his presence and his texts.
he's absolutely a pure gem. And that's what I love about this sport. Like I meet and you interact with people like that. Like I was texting with my good friend Jodie Stimpson today, if you know who Jodie is from British Athlete. I mean, her and I just have developed this amazing friendship, and I can't wait. We're going to get to see each other at 70.3 Indian Wells and travel and train and stay together. So
Cool. She's a Rudy athlete? No.
No, she's coming back from some injuries. So she just raced in Challenge San Remo over the weekend, but you know, she was a two-time gold medalist at the Commonwealth Games.
Mm-hmm.
She's, former British. She was an ITU star. And then I met her the year she won Challenge Miami down in Clash down
Yeah.
in Miami, and we became super good friends ever since. So she's just, you just meet these people like that in the sport, and like I always say, like I would love to do all my meetings from the seat of a bicycle. And so like when I
Yeah.
can travel and meet up with people I sponsor or work with at Rudy, I'm like, let's go for a bike ride. Let's go for a run. Like, why are we sitting here? I mean,
Yeah,
sure, I
for
love
sure.
to have a good coffee or a glass of wine, but like, I'd rather be out swim, bike, run, hiking, something.
Oh yeah. There's so much to do, so much internally, like introspective thinking. I mean, not necessarily when you're doing like hard interval work,
Yeah.
but a chill mountain bike or a chill ride, run, even a swim. I've gotten lost inside of 500-yard blocks before I forget where I'm at or what I'm doing because you just get so deep in thought. So there's something about the bilateral stimulation of moving your body and processing through good things, but also difficult things.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's how I live. Like I get up early every morning and I don't ever schedule a meeting or anything until I can at least get some sort of exercise in because all my
Mm-hmm.
thinking and all my ideas usually come from those things.
Yeah.
Maybe not swims as much as bikes and runs when you can be outside in nature, but
Yeah.
if I can be outside in nature with a bike or a run, it just opens your mind to like just free thoughts. And that's where lots of my ideas and things that I implement into my workday come from. And then I come home and I jot them down quick and then shower and then, get into it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so therapeutic. So I just to share briefly, I don't know if anybody's actually heard this in the podcast yet, but 2 years ago, I was held at gunpoint when I went trail running with my dog. Some
oh,
maintenance dude that was working on these trails didn't like me that I was working or that I was running with my dog off leash. It was like pretty early in the morning. I had just done challenge like a couple days before, so I came back home and was just going easy. And this guy, he's known in the area to be just overly aggressive about his job and everything that he does. So anyway, he tried talking to me. I ignored him. I went to go get in my car, and he had like parked his truck, which was a back access road to the park because I live like relatively close to it. It's not super huge, maybe like I don't know 4 or 5 square miles. But anyway, he parked behind my car to block me in, and I'm more of an aggressive type. I'm trying to work on that to where like to de-escalate situations rather than escalate them. And I
yeah.
knew with him, it was like if I end up getting into a scuffle with this guy, it's just not going to go well for either one of us. So I ignored him, went to go back to my car. I was going to look for the ranger. Anyway, he blocked in my car. I tried to back out and leave like around his car in the grass. The dude pulled out a gun. I saw bullets in the magazine, like it was an extended clip mag where you can see the bullets. He's like, I had scratches on my car and window from the muzzle hitting it. I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm going to die. Anyway, it ended up, I got out of the car and was actually yelling at him because I was like, am I going to hit the guy? Because I turned around and he got in front of my car to stop me. I was like, do I run him over? I didn't. Got out. Did probably the worst thing ever is started yelling at him while calling 911. Luckily, things kind of simmered down and police came. And anyway, the federal government pressed charges against him because he wasn't supposed to be concealed carrying, let alone aggravated
Awesome that you
assault.
were able to catch him, but that's scary stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had never a gun on me, but not that long ago, I was riding a bike in farm country because I like to go out to the farms and ride and quiet. And this guy and his old guy in his car comes by and he just buzzes. He scared the crap out of me. So
Yeah.
close, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
throw my hand in the air and he stops and he starts driving at me and he runs me into the ditch. And then I'm
Oh,
parked.
are you serious?
And he's like, I'll get out. And he's holding a big old club, like, I'll whack you in the leg and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, my heart was like 300 miles an hour. And I just
Sheesh.
stood there. He went away and then I rode away. But yeah, I mean, those moments like that, it's scary, which I get why so many people are going to mountain biking and gravel riding these days, right?
Yeah.
Because they get scared of the roads. But
Yeah.
I'm still a roadie at heart. I'd rather ride 25 mil tires and fast any day of the week.
Yeah, I like it too. But to wrap up that story, yeah, so the reason I was starting to say it is it really wrecked me emotionally for a while. Like I consider myself a relatively tough person just because of some of the stuff I've been through in the past, but for whatever reason that really screwed with me, the fact that my life was in this guy's hands. And I went to I looked up a legit therapist for PTSD stuff. They'd work with like people who had actually seen people get blown up in front of them or whatever. And the bilateral stimulation, I think it's called EMDR therapy. I just have to say, it sounds crazy because they work through with like bilateral stimulation. So you can be running or you can be like hearing clicking or following a finger or whatever. It's not hypnosis, but you go through that memory that was traumatic and you kind of bring in these positive resources from outside and to kind of work through it. And biking, swimming, and running by far was so therapeutic for working through that kind of a crazy situation. So if anybody's ever been through something tough, triathlon will definitely help you process.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Endorphins are the best drug in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
are. A runner, bikers, or swimmers high. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Next level.
Yeah.
Good deal, man. Well, I keep wanting to go back into your music history because it's like my dad was a musician and a drummer, played in bands growing up. I didn't only got to see that till I was 16 when he passed away. But this past week, I've been just following all kinds of different music stuff. I don't know if you've heard of YouTube show Drumeo.
No, I don't know if I have.
Well, it's super interesting. These guys, they bring on professional drummers and other artists, and they play them a rock song with the drums removed, and then they like make up what they think the track should sound like. And Chad Smith did one for like the song 30 Seconds to Mars, and I was just like so blown away this week, and it's like reignited my fire. Like, oh, I got to get back in there. I have guitars and stuff. I don't have a drum set. I'm like, I just want to play.
Nice. So. Chad Smith's an amazing drummer. I mean, I'll have to check that out. He's certainly an extreme talent. So
yeah. I'll show you the video. But
yeah, cool,
man. So what is your next race on the schedule?
Ironman 70.3 Indian Wells. So I'm still recovering from Augusta when we were together. The heat of that race really, my legs have felt so tired this week. Today was my first run since post Augusta. I've been riding the gravel bike this week and swimming this week since I got home. But today I went out for my first run and I was like, yeah, my legs are still tired. Like I'm still, I mean, I'm an old man, so I guess I'm not bouncing back as quick. But
sure.
So it's good. I got a little bit of time. I'm kind of got some busy stuff coming up, and like I said, my daughter's a collegiate triathlete, so I'll get to go see her race twice, and I may jump into a race at nationals in Arizona because they might have an age group wave. So we'll see if I jump into some draft legal racing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
What was your overall time at Augusta, and then what were your splits for swim, bike, and run?
So this was an interesting race for me because swimming is not my strength. Augusta was the very first time my swim split was faster than the 5 guys who beat me. So I finished 6th in my age group.
Way to be.
So one off the podium. And, not what I had intended to do. My swim was like just over 26.
Yeah.
So, and then my bike, I don't know. That was a tricky bike course. There's a lot of turns. And I'm not fast at accelerating out of turns. I'm fast. I mean, I can ride. I love to climb. I don't descend very fast. Yeah. So I don't even remember what my bike split was, 225 maybe, right around there. And my run was horrific, a 138, which is just, but I walked aid station. So
been there.
I ran, I ran the first 4 miles at like 6:20 and felt great. And then I overheated, and then I told myself, I think Chelsea Sodaro said she did this at Kona. I obviously did not run Chelsea Sodaro paces, but she would walk aid stations to take in ice and fuel to make sure she got enough in the heat out there, and then just ran between them and kept going. Yeah. And I kind of got that mindset where I would run up and stuff ice in my hat, stuff ice down your shorts, grab a drink, get going again, so it was certainly not one of my shining moments, but such is life.
No, that's still solid, man. I mean, 138. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I forget what mine was, but it was very close to that. And it was like vomiting, and I caught up to the women's pro field, and a couple of them vomited right after me. So I don't know whether to, maybe they should thank me or, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Good deal, man. Well, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing just so much about your life. We'll definitely have to do it again. We'd love to dive in just what everything else you got going on, especially after Rudy launches, I guess, their secret stuff of what you're working on.
Well, we already launched Kilians. They're out. And then we just We haven't totally officially announced, but there's another new pair of glasses. If you go to our website, you can check them out. They're called Astral.
Okay.
And then there'll be 2 more pairs of eyewear coming up. And then we won't have any new helmets until 2024 because in January of 23, we launched 2 new helmets. One is my favorite everyday training helmet called the Egos. It's got this new magnetic fidlock buckle system. So the draft legal triathlon racers love magnetic buckles. And so they've been loving this helmet. So yeah, happy to talk about anything, products, anytime, keep you up to date. And yeah, if anybody out there listening wants to talk about Rudy Project stuff, you can go to the website, fill out an ambassador application. It comes to me, I'll review it, or reach out to you and talk about a partnership.
Cool. And then we'll announce that Rudy Project is going to be the title sponsor for Stupid Questions.
Yeah, we could work on something like that. I love creative thinking. I love it.
I had to do it on live just to see what your reaction would be.
I would never say never.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. We will catch you later.
All right. I appreciate it, Seth. Thank you. All right.
Thank you guys so much for checking out this podcast episode with Mike. Thanks again to Mike for coming on the show and just sharing a little bit about who you are and what you've been up to. If you made it to this point in the show, just want to say thank you so much. And thank you to our sponsor Trex for their awesome shorts. If you guys want to check those out, please do check them in the description below. Also, just want to ask you guys, if you have made it this far through, please, wherever you are listening to this podcast, give it a review and maybe some comments. Would be super highly appreciated. Please follow on Spotify or whatever it's called on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, just want to thank you guys again so much. I forgot on this episode to include a stupid question. I know there is no excuse for that, but on the next one, I promise you, I will get it figured out. I've got a format for how I'm going to do this. So I look forward to kind of launching that piece of the episode. But again, thank you guys so much for checking it out, and we will catch you in the next one.